Let's start number 1, Pontiac Bonneville. What if I told you that the car General Motors just revealed is not just a comeback? It is a statement that will make every luxury brand in the world rethink everything they thought they knew about American elegance. Because what you are looking at right now is not simply a new model. This is a resurrection. And trust me, by the time you finish watching this, you are going to understand exactly why the automotive world is already talking about almost nothing else. Welcome back to Premium Automotive Reviews, where we go beyond the glossy brochures and the dealership pitches to give you the real story behind the machines that matter. If you are new here, this is exactly the kind of content we live for. The moments when a car arrives and genuinely changes the conversation. And the 2026 Pontiac Bonneville is absolutely one of those moments. There is a detail toward the end of this breakdown that almost nobody is discussing yet. Something buried in the engineering philosophy of this car that could make it the most forward-thinking American Grand Tourer ever built. So stay with us, because this one gets better the deeper we go. Let us start with what hits you first. The visual presence of this car is nothing short of cinematic. Standing in front of it, you are immediately struck by how confidently it wears its heritage. The front fascia carries a redesigned interpretation of the classic Pontiac Aero grille, but reimagined with such precision that it feels simultaneously retro and decades ahead of its time. The hexagonal mesh grille sections are framed by a razor-thin light bar that stretches across the entire front, and when those LED strips illuminate, the effect is something closer to a spacecraft than a sedan. The hood carries dual carbon fiber vents that are not decorative. They are functional, channeling heat away from a powertrain that we will get to in a moment. The copper rose metallic finish you see in these renders is a signature option for this generation, and it does something remarkable in different lighting conditions. In daylight, it reads warm and luxurious. Under city lights at night, it transforms into something almost molten, almost alive. The profile of the car is where the design team truly earned their reputation. This is a long, low, wide Grand Tourer with a roofline that drops in a slow, confident arc toward the rear deck. There is no visual anxiety here, no desperate aero winglets or aggressive cut lines trying to look fast. The Bonneville looks fast because of proportion, because of restraint, because every surface flows into the next with the kind of intention you expect from coach-built European machinery. The side vents just behind the front wheels are a subtle nod to classic muscle car design, but they are integrated so cleanly into the bodywork that they feel inevitable rather than nostalgic. The wheels on this generation are a spectacular multi-spoke design finished in matching copper rose, sitting inside dramatically wide arches that give the car a planted, authoritative stance without ever feeling aggressive or overwrought. Around back, the design philosophy becomes even more impressive. A full-width LED taillight strip mirrors the front light bar, creating a visual symmetry that makes the car look equally powerful from either end. Below that, a carbon fiber diffuser frames 4 exhaust outlets finished in copper, and they are not symmetrically paired on the outside the way most performance cars place them. They are centered, grouped together, which is an unusual and bold choice that signals the kind of confidence this car carries in every design decision. The trunk opens with a wide, power-assisted lid that reveals a genuinely usable cargo area, something that Grand Tourers of this size often sacrifice on the altar of sportiness. The Bonneville does not make that compromise, and that tells you a great deal about the vision behind this car. Stepping inside is where this vehicle stops being impressive and starts being transformative. The interior of the 2026 Bonneville is the kind of space that reframes your expectations for what an American luxury car can feel like. The primary seating surfaces are wrapped in cream-quilted leather with diamond stitching, so precise it looks machine-embroidered, and the contrast stitching in a warm tan tone against that cream creates a visual warmth that is genuinely inviting rather than sterile. The dashboard runs a single, uninterrupted line of rich dark wood and copper trim from door to door, housing a widescreen display cluster that combines the digital instrument panel and the infotainment screen into one seamless curved surface. This is not a collection of screens bolted together. This is a display architecture designed as a single visual plane, and the difference in execution is immediately apparent. The center console is where the design team delivered their most theatrical moment. A carbon fiber tunnel rises from the cabin floor, and at its heart sits the gear selector, a copper rose shifting mechanism surrounded by a crystal dial that functions as the drive mode selector. The faceted crystal catches ambient light from every angle and scatters it across the interior in ways that shift as the car moves. It sounds like a small detail. It absolutely is not. It is the kind of touch that reminds you someone cared deeply about what it would feel like to sit in this car for hours, not just what it would look like in a photograph. The ambient lighting system in the Bonneville operates on what the engineering team describes as a responsive atmosphere protocol. That means the cabin light shifts in color temperature and intensity based on time of day, selected drive mode, and even the music playing through the sound system. In sport mode, the lighting cools and intensifies. In comfort mode, it warms and softens. In the evening, it automatically transitions toward warmer amber tones. It sounds like a luxury gimmick until you spend 30 minutes driving with it, and then it becomes something you quietly depend on. Now let us talk about what is under that sculpted hood, because this is where the conversation around the Bonneville becomes genuinely exciting. The primary powertrain option for North America is a twin-turbocharged V8, delivering output in the region of 1,000 horsepower, which positions this car in territory previously occupied only by European hypercars and hand-built American specialists. But here is what makes that number meaningful rather than just shocking. The engineers paired this engine to an adaptive air suspension system that reads road surface conditions 40 times per second and adjusts damping in real time. What that means in practice is that a car producing 4 figures of horsepower does not feel violent or nervous on public roads. It feels planted, composed, and oddly serene, until you ask it not to be. And when you do ask, the response is the kind of instantaneous linear surge that genuinely redefines your sense of what a car this size should be capable of. The starting price for the base configuration is positioned around $185,000. with fully optioned examples expected to approach and exceed $240,000 depending on personalization packages. The technology embedded throughout the Bonneville extends well beyond the powertrain. The driver assistance suite operates through a combination of forward-facing radar, 16 ultrasonic sensors, and a roof-mounted LiDAR array that maps the road environment in 3 dimensions. The system supports hands-free highway driving in designated zones, automated lane changing, and a predictive routing function that actually learns your preferred driving style over time and adjusts throttle mapping, suspension settings, and even climate preferences based on where it has learned. You tend to want a more spirited or more relaxed experience. This is not passive cruise control with a camera. This is a system that genuinely builds a profile of how you drive and serves that profile back to you every time you get in. Over-the-air updates keep every system current without requiring dealer visits, meaning the car you buy in year 1 will be meaningfully more capable in year 3 without any hardware changes. Safety is woven through every system without ever making itself the centerpiece of the experience. The Bonneville deploys pre-collision tensioning, emergency steering assistance, and a 360-degree camera system with augmented reality overlay that shows your vehicle's predicted path relative to obstacles in real time. For a car of this price and this performance capability, the safety architecture is not a compliance exercise. It is an extension of the driving confidence the whole vehicle is designed to inspire. And that word, confidence, might be the most accurate single description of what the 2026 Pontiac Bonneville ultimately delivers. This is not a car that shouts. It does not need to. Every surface, every system, every material choice communicates the same message, that someone sat down with an intention to build not just the best American Grand Tourer, but one of the finest luxury performance cars on earth, full stop. It is a car for people who understand that elegance and power are not opposing forces. It is a car for people who have driven the European alternatives and found something missing. Not in the engineering, but in the soul. The Bonneville is not trying to be a European car. It is something rarer and more interesting than that. It is an American car that has finally stopped apologizing for being American and started reminding the world what American vision looks like when it is fully realized. If this video gave you something, a new perspective, a reason to pay attention, a detail you had not considered. Leave a comment below and tell us what surprised you most. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews if you want to be in the room for every conversation that matters in the automotive world. And share this with someone who still thinks American luxury is an old story. Because the chapter that just opened looks nothing like anything that came before it. Let's start number 2, Lincoln Mark V. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody. And I mean that. Because what Lincoln just rolled onto that show floor is not a concept, not a rendering, not a maybe someday prototype. It is real, it is here, and it is absolutely, undeniably, one of the most shocking things to happen to the luxury car world in years. If you thought American luxury was finished, if you wrote Lincoln off years ago, I need you to stay right here because the next few minutes are going to completely change how you think about this brand forever. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, where we don't just look at cars, we feel them, we dissect them, and we tell you the truth about them. No fluff, no filler, just real passion for real machines. And today, we are talking about the 2026 Lincoln Mark V, a car that walked into the room and made people stop talking mid-sentence. A car with 800 horsepower, a full carbon fiber body, a hand-built interior that rivals anything coming out of Europe, and a price tag that puts it in a conversation most people never expected an American car to join. And I promise you, before this video is done, I'm going to show you one thing about this car that even the biggest car channels aren't covering. So do not go anywhere. Let's set the scene. You're walking through an auto show. You've seen the usual suspects. The familiar German flagships, the expected Japanese luxury entries, the British ultra premiums. And then you turn a corner, and there it is, all black, sitting low, drenched in carbon fiber. The Lincoln Star glowing gold in the center of a vertical waterfall grille that somehow manages to feel both classic and futuristic at the same time. You stop walking. Everyone around you stops walking. Because this car has presence, real, physical, undeniable presence. The kind you feel in your chest before you even fully process what you're looking at. The front end of the Mark V is a masterclass in confident design. That full-width LED light bar stretches razor-thin across the nose. At night, it's the kind of signature that you'd recognize from half a mile away. Below it, the bumper opens into aggressive carbon fiber intakes that feed the cooling system and reinforce the aerodynamic story this entire car is trying to tell. The front splitter sits low to the ground, and every angle, every cut, every crease on this nose was put there on purpose. There is no wasted geometry here. This is a team of designers who were given permission to be bold, and they took every inch of it. Now look at the hood. Full exposed carbon fiber weave. Not wrapped, not painted to look like carbon fiber, actual carbon fiber, with that hypnotic dark pattern that shifts under different lighting like the surface of deep water. There's a power bulge running down the center that gives a subtle nod to what's sitting underneath. And flanking it, 2 hood vents that aren't decorative. They're functional. They breathe. This car doesn't just look fast. It actually manages heat like a performance machine, because that's exactly what it is. Walk around to the side, and the wide-body stance hits you all over again. The fenders flare outward with real aggression, and inside those arches sit some of the most beautiful wheels I've seen on any production luxury car this decade. Turbine style, multi-spoke, massive. They spin with the kind of visual drama that makes you stop and look twice, even on a stationary car. The roofline sweeps back in a long, gradual fastback curve, and the carbon fiber roof creates a natural two-tone effect against the deep gloss black lower body. It's subtle, it's intentional, and it makes the silhouette of this car look like something that was drawn, not engineered. The rear is where it all comes together emotionally. A full-width red light bar mirrors the front, and beneath it, Lincoln Mark V, spelled out in proud raised letters that span the entire trunk lid. Below that, a carbon fiber diffuser houses 4 round exhaust outlets, wide, polished, staggered, that tell you in the most visual language possible that this machine is serious. Standing behind this car in a parking lot would make anyone look twice. In traffic, it would make everyone look. But here's the thing. Here is the part where this car separates itself from just being a beautiful object. Because when you open that door, and the doors are heavy in the way that only expensive things are heavy, the interior hits you like a completely different world. The seats are wrapped in saddle tan leather, diamond quilted with a precision that feels almost excessive in the best possible way. The contrast between that warm cognac leather and the dark carbon fiber trim throughout the cabin creates a tension that feels like luxury and performance having a conversation. The floor is lined with deep pile carpet that your shoes sink into. The headliner is finished in a material that feels soft to the touch. Every surface you might brush your hand against was considered. Every material was chosen. Nothing in here is accidental. And then there's the dashboard. A triple-screen panoramic display that stretches nearly the full width of the car. Left screen, digital instrument cluster, clean, crisp, configurable. Center screen, navigation, and media. Large enough to use without squinting, responsive enough that it feels like a premium tablet, not an afterthought. Right screen, and this is the one that makes you stop and stare. A dedicated ambient display. Lincoln calls it a mood interface. It shows brand visuals, dynamic wallpapers, vehicle information, and it ties directly into the car's AI system. Because yes, this car has a real artificial intelligence layer built into its operating software. The AI in the Mark V is not a gimmick. It learns. It observes how you drive, what temperature you prefer, which seats you adjust to, which routes you take on which days. Over time, it builds a profile of you as a driver and as a passenger. And it uses that profile to pre-configure the car before you even put it in drive. And through over-the-air software updates, this system improves after you buy the car. The Mark V you own in year 2 is functionally smarter than the one you drove off the lot. That is not something any car could say 5 years ago. It is the new standard. Now slide into the back seat, because rear passengers in this car are not an afterthought. 4 individual seats, each quilted, each with full independent controls, each with personal screens built into the center console island. There is an analog clock embedded in that center console, real, physical, ticking, finished like something out of a Swiss atelier. In the middle of all this digital luxury, that clock is the detail that says everything about Lincoln's philosophy with this car. Technology and craft, together, not competing. The panoramic glass roof floods the interior in natural light. The ambient lighting system wraps every surface in a customizable glow. And when all 4 doors open simultaneously, which you can see in the reveal footage, the interior looks like a private jet cabin that decided to grow wheels. There is nothing else in the American market that delivers this kind of rear seat experience at any price. Now let's talk about the engine, because 800 horsepower deserves more than a number. Lincoln has combined a high-output twin-turbocharged V8 with a hybrid electric system, and the result is a powertrain that does 2 things most cars can only do one of. In comfort mode, it is whisper quiet, perfectly isolated, floating over road imperfections with the kind of calm that makes long drives feel restorative. Switch to sport mode, and that same car becomes something that pins you to your seat and fills the cabin with an exhaust note that makes the hair on your arms stand up. 800 horsepower in a Lincoln. Let that settle for a moment. The Air Ride adaptive suspension reads the road thousands of times per second and adjusts damping in real time. The wheelbase is generous enough for rear passengers to feel like royalty, but the car never feels like a barge from the driver's seat. That balance, true luxury and real dynamics in the same vehicle, is one of the hardest things to achieve in automotive engineering. Lincoln achieved it. Open the trunk, and there is one last detail waiting for you. The cargo floor is lined with quilted leather, real leather, in the trunk, and the space comes pre-configured with a matched luggage set and a bespoke toolkit, both finished in the interior color palette. This car was designed as a complete ownership experience, not just a vehicle. From the moment you see it to the moment you open the boot on a road trip, every single element of the Lincoln Mark V was thought about. Deliberately, carefully, passionately. Starting at approximately $250,000 US, this car walks into a room full of the world's most exclusive sedans and does not flinch. It has the power of a supercar, the interior of a private jet, the technology of the future, and the visual presence of something that hasn't existed before. It is American luxury reimagined from the ground up, not borrowed from European tradition, not chasing anyone else's formula, entirely, confidently, unapologetically its own thing. The 2026 Lincoln Mark V is not a comeback story. Comeback stories are about returning to where you were. This car is about going somewhere nobody expected. It is a declaration, a line drawn in the asphalt. And whether you're a lifelong Lincoln loyalist or someone who never gave this brand a second thought, you are going to remember the moment you first saw this car. That is rare. That matters. And that is exactly why we cover cars like this. If this video gave you something, show it some love. Hit like. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who care about cars the way we do. Subscribe if you want to be here for the full drive review, the ownership deep dive, and everything that comes next for the Mark V story. And drop your honest opinion in the comments. Does the 2026 Lincoln Mark V belong in the same conversation as the best luxury sedans on the planet? Or does Lincoln still have something to prove? I read every single comment. Let's talk about it. Let's start number 3, Studebaker Avanti. What if a car brand that died over 60 years ago just came back and somehow built something that makes most modern sports cars look like they are still stuck in the past? That is not a hypothetical. That is exactly what is happening right now. And the automotive world genuinely does not know how to process it. Welcome back to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel where we go deeper than spec sheets and press releases, where we actually talk about what a car means, what it feels like, and why it matters. If you are new here, you picked the right video to start with, because today we are talking about one of the most unexpected, most talked about automotive comebacks in recent memory, the 2026 Studebaker Avanti. And trust me, by the time we get to what is under the hood and what is going on inside that cabin, you are going to understand why people at auto shows were stopping mid-stride and just staring. Let us start right at the beginning. Studebaker. For younger viewers, that name might sound like something out of a history book. And honestly, it was. Studebaker shut its doors back in 1966. Gone. Finished. A brand that had been building vehicles since the 1850s, literally starting with wagons, just stopped. And the Avanti, that gorgeous, Raymond Loewy-designed coupe that looked like it came from a different dimension when it launched in 1963, became a symbol of what could have been. A car so far ahead of its time that the industry never quite caught up to what it was trying to say. Now, more than 6 decades later, somebody looked at that legacy, looked at what the automotive world has become, and decided the Avanti deserved another chapter. Not a nostalgia project, not a museum piece, a full, ground-up, production intent revival. And what you are seeing right now is the production prototype of the 2026 Studebaker Avanti, shown publicly at a major auto show, turning heads in a room full of modern machines. The moment you see this car from the front, something clicks in your brain. The face is unmistakably Avanti. Those wide, square-framed LED headlights sit like jewels in a face that is both retro and completely contemporary. The original 1963 Avanti famously had no traditional grille, and this new car honors that DNA. The front end is clean, sculpted, almost architectural. The famous Studebaker S badge sits dead center in an ocean of pearl white bodywork, finished in a color that seems to glow under any light. There is a carbon fiber front splitter running the full width of the lower fascia, aggressive and purposeful, telling you immediately that this is not a car built just to be looked at. Walk around to the side profile, and this is where you might have to catch your breath. The Avanti always had that long hood, short rear deck proportion that made it look like it was moving even when parked. This new generation amplifies that. The roofline sweeps low and fast, tapering into a fastback rear that feels almost coupe-like from certain angles. Wide-body fenders flare dramatically over the wheels, giving it a planted, muscular stance without looking cartoonish. And those wheels are extraordinary. Custom multi-spoke rims wrapped in Michelin Pilot sport tires, finished with a two-tone design featuring a white outer lip that is an unmistakable nod to the classic American muscle era. They fill those arches perfectly. The car sits low, tucked into its own shadow, like it is permanently ready to pounce. The carbon fiber work on this car deserves its own conversation. Full carbon roof panel, side skirts, rear diffuser. It is not decorative. It is structural and aerodynamic. The rear diffuser extends wide and low beneath the tail, channeling air with purpose, and flanked on either side by quad exhaust tips that announce, before the engine even starts, that something serious is happening here. The LED tail lamps stretch across the rear with a horizontal signature that is instantly recognizable, and the Studebaker Avanti badge on the trunk is subtle, almost understated. This car lets its shape do the talking. Now, step inside, and this is the moment that separates a beautiful exterior from a truly exceptional automobile. Because the interior of the 2026 Avanti is not just good. It is genuinely shocking in the best possible way. Every surface you touch is wrapped in hand-stitched cognac leather. Deep, warm saddle brown that wraps across the seats, the door panels, the dashboard, the headliner. The quilted diamond stitching on the seats has a precision to it that you normally associate with bespoke watchmaking. There is no shortcut taken anywhere inside this cabin. And then you layer carbon fiber over that leather in all the right places. The steering wheel, the center console surround, the instrument cluster housing, and what you get is this extraordinary tension between warmth and edge, between classic luxury and modern performance. The steering wheel itself is a piece of art. Carbon fiber spokes, leather rim, and right at the center, that red Studebaker S logo watching you. The digital instrument cluster behind it reads with clarity and elegance, displaying speed, power output, navigation, and vehicle data in a way that feels futuristic without being overwhelming. There is a dedicated touchscreen in the center stack running the Studebaker infotainment system, which handles navigation, media, connected services, and vehicle settings. The interface is clean, responsive, and built with the understanding that the person sitting in this car does not want to fight their technology. They want it to simply work. And there is something genuinely clever about this interior that you might not notice immediately. That polished aluminum rail running along the top of the dashboard, the one with the Studebaker Avanti script engraved into it, with the round analog-style vents set into it. It is a direct, intentional callback to the original Avanti's instrument panel design. It bridges 60 years in a single design element. That kind of thoughtfulness is what separates a revival from a resurrection. Now let us talk about what this car actually does. Because the exterior stance and the interior quality have been setting up a promise, and the 2026 Avanti is not here to break it. The powertrain configuration that has been confirmed is a twin turbocharged V8, rear-wheel drive, producing in the region of 1,200 horsepower. Let that sit for a moment. 1,200 horsepower. In a rear-wheel drive American Grand Tourer wearing the Studebaker name. That is not a number thrown around casually. That is a number that changes the conversation entirely. The chassis has been engineered from scratch to handle that kind of output responsibly. The suspension setup is fully independent front and rear, with adaptive dampers that can read the road surface and adjust in milliseconds. At low speeds around town, the ride is refined, composed, almost serene. Push it and the car transforms. It tightens, it communicates, it rewards. The braking system is massive, vented and cross-drilled, with red calipers visible through those open spoke wheels, ready to haul this machine down from speeds that would make your stomach drop. What makes this powertrain story even more interesting is the whisper of a hybrid variant somewhere in the development pipeline. Studebaker has been careful with their language, but the digital cluster on the production prototype clearly shows hybrid-style readouts, green power flow indicators, regenerative metrics. This car is being engineered with the future in mind, not just the present. If a hybrid configuration arrives, expect combined output to climb even further, and efficiency to become part of the conversation in a segment that has traditionally ignored it entirely. From a technology standpoint, the Avanti is built to receive over-the-air software updates, meaning the car you buy will not stay frozen in time. New features, performance calibrations, interface improvements, all delivered wirelessly. Driver assistance systems are present and thoughtfully integrated, including adaptive cruise control, lane centering, collision mitigation, and a surround camera system that makes parking this wide-bodied machine far less intimidating than it looks. These are not gimmicks. They are tools that make living with a 1,200 horsepower car genuinely manageable every single day. And that daily usability question is one worth addressing directly. The Avanti is not a track-only machine. The rear seats are real, the trunk is usable, and the ride quality in its most relaxed mode is genuinely comfortable over long distances. This is a Grand Tourer in the truest sense, a car you could drive from one coast to the other, arrive looking like you just stepped off a private jet, and feel like every mile was effortless. The price point being discussed for the 2026 Studebaker Avanti sits around the $200,000 range for the base configuration, climbing higher for fully optioned examples. In the context of what is being offered, the handcrafted interior, the carbon fiber bodywork, the 1,200 horsepower rear-wheel drive powertrain, and the extraordinary heritage being carried forward, that number becomes far easier to understand. You are not just buying a car. You are buying a piece of automotive history being rewritten in real time. Who is this car for? It is for the person who has driven the best the modern world offers and still felt like something was missing. The soul, the story, the sense that the machine in their garage means something beyond its price tag or its 0 to 60 number. It is for the collector who wants something that will matter 20 years from now, not just today. And it is for the enthusiast who remembers, or who has been told, what American automotive design was capable of when it was at its most courageous and most creative. The 2026 Studebaker Avanti is not just a car. It is a statement that great ideas do not expire, that a name carrying decades of silence can return with something to say that the industry genuinely needs to hear. What Raymond Loewy envisioned in 1963 was always ahead of its time. And now, somehow, the time finally caught up. If this car moved something in you the way it moved something in us, drop a comment below and tell us what you think about this comeback. Like this video if you believe the Avanti deserved its second chance, and subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews because this is just the beginning of a very interesting story, and you do not want to miss where it goes from here. Let's start number 4, Chevrolet Corvette Zora. What if I told you that Chevrolet just built something so extreme, so technologically violent, so visually otherworldly, that the entire supercar world went quiet the moment it was uncovered? Not a concept, not a render, the real thing. And the moment you see it in person, you understand why nothing else in America has ever looked or felt like this before. Welcome back to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel where we go deeper than the spec sheet, past the press release, and right into the heart of what a car actually means, what it feels like, and whether it deserves the legend status it is chasing. And today, we are talking about the 2026 Chevrolet Corvette Zora. The name alone carries weight. Zora Arkus Duntov, the man who gave the Corvette its soul, the engineer who made it fast when nobody believed it could be. Naming this car after him is not just a tribute, it is a declaration. So before you scroll away, stay with me, because what this car does in its last quarter, under full power, with the hybrid system engaged, is something that will redefine what you think an American car is capable of. And we are getting there. Let us start with what hits you first, the design. Standing in front of the Zora is a genuinely disorienting experience. You have seen Corvettes before. You know the silhouette, the wide haunches, the mid-engine stance of the C8 generation. But the Zora throws that familiarity out of a moving vehicle. The front fascia is aggressive in a way that feels almost confrontational, a sweeping white upper section flowing dramatically into a black carbon-loaded lower face, with headlights that cut through the car like slashes rather than shapes. Those LED signatures are not just functional, they are architectural. They frame the car like a piece of modern sculpture that also happens to corner at speeds that make your organs shift. The carbon fiber work across this car is extraordinary. Every panel, every vent, every splitter element has been shaped not just for aesthetics, but for purpose. The front diffuser architecture, those angular geometric cuts in the lower fascia, they are not decorative. They are managing airflow at speeds that most cars never see. The side profile is where the Zora goes from impressive to unforgettable. Those angular sculpted surfaces catch light in a way that makes the car look like it is moving even when it is standing completely still. The chrome multi-spoke wheels sit inside wide, dramatically flared arches, and the rear haunches swell outward with the confidence of something that knows exactly how fast it goes. And then there is the rear. 4 centered exhaust outlets, a dramatic active rear wing, taillights that pulse with arrow-shaped red LED signatures, and one word on the back that says everything. Zora, inside, and this is where it gets genuinely exciting. The interior of this car is not a place you occupy. It is a place you inhabit. The cockpit wraps around you in real carbon fiber, with white leather surfaces that contrast with the dark structural elements in a way that feels more aviation than automobile. The center tunnel is a work of engineering, art, sculpted with buttons, selectors, and materials that communicate one thing with absolute clarity. This was built with intention. The infotainment screen sits in a portrait orientation, tilted toward the driver, displaying information in a clean, performance-oriented layout. Drive modes, performance metrics, navigation, system states, everything is organized in a way that reduces cognitive load while keeping all critical data within your field of vision. The steering wheel carries the crossed flag's emblem dead center, surrounded by haptic controls and paddle shifters that feel like they belong on a race car. And the ambient lighting that traces the door panels and the dashboard architecture creates an atmosphere that shifts depending on which drive mode you select. Comfort mode wraps you in blue calm. Sport mode turns everything red and urgent. Now, here is where we need to slow down and talk about what lives underneath this body, because this is the part of the Zora story that changes everything. The 2026 Corvette Zora is a hybrid hypercar, not a mild hybrid with a small motor helping a large engine breathe. A full purpose-built performance hybrid system that pairs a twin-turbocharged V8 with electric motors positioned at both axles. The combined system output sits at a figure that, when Chevrolet confirmed it, made the entire industry stop typing. 1,500 horsepower in a Corvette, built in America, starting at a price that positions this car not in the stratosphere of European exclusivity, but at a point that makes it accessible to the serious enthusiast. Around $250,000. When you understand what that number buys in the European hypercar world, and then you look at what the Zora delivers, the value equation becomes genuinely difficult to argue with. The all-wheel drive system is not just about traction. The front electric motors do something more sophisticated than grip. They vector torque independently to each front wheel, meaning the car can steer itself through a corner at a level of precision that no mechanical system alone can match. Rear-wheel steering adds another layer. The suspension geometry has been reworked from the ground up to accommodate the hybrid system weight distribution while maintaining the kind of ride quality that lets you actually live with this car across a weekend trip without feeling like you survived a battle. And that is the thing about the Zora that the raw numbers never quite capture. This is a car with intelligence. Over-the-air updates mean it gets better after you buy it. The driver assistance systems, the adaptive cruise, the lane intelligence, the emergency response systems, they all operate with a clarity and speed that reflects genuine engineering sophistication, not checkbox compliance. What really separates the Zora from everything else in this price bracket is not one single feature. It is the emotional package. The feeling of sitting in something American, something born from a lineage that stretches back decades, yet designed and engineered for a future that has not fully arrived yet. There is no car right now that sits at the exact intersection of heritage and technology the way the Zora does. It carries the past in its name and the future in its powertrain. This car is for the person who has driven European hypercars and respected them, but wanted something that felt like it belonged to them. Something that carried a flag. Something that proved beyond any reasonable doubt that American engineering, when it is unleashed without compromise, produces results that the rest of the world has to sit down and reconsider. The 2026 Chevrolet Corvette Zora is not the next Corvette. It is the first car that makes you wonder whether every Corvette that came before it was simply practice. And if that is true, then what comes after the Zora is a thought that should genuinely excite you. If this gave you something to think about, if this changed even slightly the way you see what an American performance car can be, hit that like button, subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because this conversation is just getting started. And now let's start number 5, Dodge Viper SRT. They said the Viper was dead. They said America had moved on. They said the era of the raw, unfiltered rear-wheel drive supercar with a monstrous engine up front was finished. And then Dodge did something that nobody in this industry saw coming. They brought the snake back, and this time it bites harder than anything that has ever worn this name before. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel that never takes the easy road when it comes to understanding what a car truly represents. We do not just read you dimensions and horsepower numbers. We talk about what a car means, what it feels like to stand in front of it, what it says about the moment in automotive history we are living through right now. And this moment, this particular reveal, genuinely stopped us cold. So stay with us through this entire video, because there is a detail about the powertrain and a piece of technology built into this car that we are going to get to. And when we do, you will understand exactly why the 2026 Dodge Viper SRT is not just a comeback. It is a declaration. Let us start exactly where you cannot look away. The exterior. Because the first time you see this car, whether it is rolling down a highway at night with the city glowing behind it or sitting under the white marble lighting of a showroom, the reaction is the same. Your brain registers danger before your eyes can even process the details. That is intentional. That is design language doing exactly what it is supposed to do. The front face of this new Viper SRT is a masterwork of aggression made sophisticated. Gone is the simple, brutish snout of the previous generation. In its place is a structured, layered front end that combines a wide, oval mesh grille set low and centered, flanked by vertical LED light bars that run from the headlights straight down through the front fascia, like two bolts of white lightning frozen in place. The hood rises dramatically, punctuated by multiple functional vents and a broad carbon fiber center stripe that runs the full length of the car. Those vent openings are not decorative. They are pulling heat from one of the most serious engines ever stuffed into an American production car, and we will get there. The deep candy apple red paint on this prototype is the kind of finish that looks different in every light. Under fluorescent showroom lighting, it burns like an ember. Under city streetlights at night, it turns almost black, with hints of crimson fire underneath. It is one of those colors that makes the car feel alive, even when it is standing completely still. And the body itself, those sculpted rear haunches, the side coves with their carbon fiber vent treatments, the way the roofline drops into that fastback rear with the carbon accent stripe, all of it communicates one thing without saying a single word: speed. Undeniable, unapologetic American speed. The wheel and tire package on this car deserves its own moment of appreciation. Custom-forged multi-spoke rims with machined faces and a red lacquered outer barrel finish that echoes the body color, wrapped in Michelin Pilot sport tires that look wide enough to embarrass an aircraft carrier. Massive red brake calipers sit behind those spokes, and they are not there for show. At the rear, a full carbon fiber diffuser dominates the lower bumper, channeling air with the kind of efficiency you expect from purpose-built track machines. Quad exhaust outlets emerge from that diffuser, round and polished. And even at idle, they make a sound that rewires something deep in your nervous system. Now, step inside. And this is where the 2026 Viper SRT does something genuinely unexpected. Because the previous Viper's interior was famously basic. It was a driver's car, meaning the interior was there to hold you in place while the engine did its thing, and everything else was considered unnecessary weight. That philosophy is still very much alive here, but it has been elevated in a way that feels earned rather than forced. The cabin is draped in deep crimson leather and Alcantara suede. Every seat surface, every door panel, every stitched quilted panel carries this two-tone treatment in red and near black that creates a cockpit feeling of incredible drama and focus. The carbon fiber steering wheel sits in your hands with that perfect diameter that reminds you this is a tool first, a luxury item second. ACR badging on the wheel center connects this car directly to the legendary American club racing heritage that made the Viper a track record holder at circuits around the world. The instrument cluster retains analog-style gauges, which in 2026 is actually a statement of confidence. Not every car needs to go full digital dashboard to feel modern. The Viper says its performance is real enough that you can measure it the old-fashioned way, with a needle sweeping across a dial. The central infotainment screen is embedded cleanly into the carbon fiber center stack, displaying the Dodge ACR branding on startup, with a clarity and sharpness that brings the technology fully into the present, without compromising the raw character of the cockpit. And there is something about the way this interior smells, the leather, the carbon, the mechanical presence of everything around you, that simply does not exist in any other car at any price point. You cannot recreate that. It either has it or it does not. The 2026 Viper SRT has it in abundance. Now let us talk about what makes this car something genuinely historic, and the reason this video might be the most important automotive content you watch this year. The powertrain. The 2026 Dodge Viper SRT is confirmed to produce 400 horsepower. Let that register for a moment. 1,400 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive American sports car. This is not a hybrid number, not a combined system output measured under optimistic conditions. This is what happens when engineers who grew up worshiping the original Viper V10 are handed a modern supercharged platform and told to finish the sentence that started in 1992. The engine is a supercharged V8 in this new generation, a departure from the iconic V10 that powered every previous Viper. And that decision was clearly not made lightly. But the result speaks for itself. The sound coming out of those 4 exhaust pipes is operatic in the most violent way possible. It does not whisper, it does not suggest, it commands. The torque curve on this engine is the kind that makes sport modes in other cars feel apologetic. The chassis has been completely re-engineered from the ground up to handle this level of output with some degree of daily usability. Adaptive magnetic ride control suspension manages the balance between track-ready stiffness and real-world compliance in a way that the original Viper could never achieve. You can drive this car to the grocery store without feeling like you are piloting a race car on a public road. And then 30 seconds after leaving the parking lot, you can remind yourself why grocery store trips have never felt this good. Driver assistance technology on the 2026 Viper SRT is present but deliberately minimal. There is traction control, launch control, stability management, and a performance data recorder built in so you can review your own driving on track. What there is not is a collection of systems trying to take the driving experience away from you. Dodge understands their audience. The people who buy this car want to feel every input, every correction, every consequence. The safety net exists, but it never pretends to be the point. Pricing for the 2026 Dodge Viper SRT is positioned in the range of approximately $150,000 to $175,000 for the base configuration, with fully optioned ACR variants climbing meaningfully beyond that. In the context of 1,400 horsepower, full carbon fiber aerodynamic bodywork, and a handcrafted interior that rivals machines costing twice as much, that number represents something genuinely extraordinary in the performance car market. Who is this car for? It is for the person who looked at the direction the automotive world was heading, toward autonomous features and digital isolation and engineered-out driver involvement, and felt something being taken away. The 2026 Dodge Viper SRT is for the driver who still believes that the relationship between a human being and a high-performance machine should feel like a conversation, not a lecture. It is for the collector who wants something that will be remembered. It is for the enthusiast who does not need to be told what gear to select or when to brake. The Viper was never supposed to be comfortable. It was never supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be the most honest, most committed, most ferociously American interpretation of what a supercar could be. And this new generation, with its 1,400 horsepower, its carbon-drenched body, its crimson leather cockpit, and its absolute refusal to apologize for what it is, delivers on that promise in ways that the original could only dream of. The snake is back, and it is hungry. If this car moved something in you the way it moved us, drop a comment below and tell us whether you think the Viper SRT deserves its place at the top of the American performance hierarchy. If you want to be here when we go deeper into the track variants and the ACR package breakdown, subscribing to Premium Automotive Reviews is where that conversation happens. Like this video if you believe the Viper was always worth fighting for. We will see you on the next one.